At the tail end of 2019, I was found to have had a 10 millimeter kidney stone, a size that is so large that you cannot pee it out or otherwise get rid of it by natural means. You have to see a doctor who shoves a tube up your dick that also has a camera and also some kind of laser thing in order to shoot the rock inside of your kidney into little pieces. And that is what they did to me. They then put a stent inside of me that came out of that area that they shoved the camera up into, and I had to be bedridden in the hospital for a couple days because otherwise the insinuation was that something would fall apart. I don't quite remember how they did it, but they were like, maybe your guts will fall out or something. So I had to be in the hospital in bed. And then they sent me home with antibiotics and opioid pain medication because the pain with kidney stones is so severe that it's estimated to be worse than childbirth. And that was something that I certainly felt when pieces of the stone, like the last little bits that they had broken it up into, were coming out. And I remember them taking the stent out, but it being a fairly minimal process, there not being much involved. However, within the span of a year, I was found to have had another kidney stone, about the same size. This time, I found out about it because it caused me excruciating pain. Now, with the first one, I had only found out about it by chance because I wanted to get out of school. So I was going to school in 2019 and I didn't want to be. So I had lied to my teacher saying that I had back pain. I actually had none whatsoever. And I went to my primary care doctor in order to have notes for not going to school to complain about my back pain and to do tests to find out what the cause of it was. I had assumed they were going to x-ray me and do these different tests and find nothing. What I happened to find out, something unbeknownst to me, was that I actually had a kidney stone the whole time. And it suddenly explained the moments throughout the year and the prior year when I would have sudden and harsh pain, but generally those moments didn't come up, so I didn't make much of it, especially because I spent most of my time in my computer chair, like I wasn't moving around much. Kidney stone pain tends to become more obvious when you exert yourself. So I didn't even know it was there, and to the extent that I could find out it was there, I didn't really care to, because it seemed like I was going through a minor inconvenience, like it's just physical pain, who cares? That was kind of my mindset about it. But here was an instance where I hadn't had any physical pain for months and months, my stone was progressively getting bigger, I just wanted to get out of school. So I went to the doctor acting as though there was pain there. They find out that something big was actually happening to me. Later on, I find out that I have a second stone, about a year after this. And it was because I was actually in severe pain. The difference with this one was that it was lodged in a place where when I moved, it could actually make me feel pain. So the other one was so high up in the kidney that it didn't actually make me feel pain where it was. At least that was how it was explained to me. So by the time I had the second one, I was in some deep shit. It was moving around like crazy, and I felt by far the worst pain that I had ever experienced. It was like unbelievable. And this was during COVID, so I go to the hospital in the ambulance. They have me wait out in the waiting room while I'm throwing up from how much physical pain that I was in and screaming and crying. And I had never once in my life thrown up from physical pain. Even back when I was getting beaten, even when I was thrown onto a heavy stack of crates from a high place on a bunk bed as like a little kid, I ended up actually having my bones fucked up from that. I couldn't sit or lay down without pain for a number of years after that was done to me. Of course, I ended up healing okay because I was pretty young, but there were multiple years there where I had semi-regular pain after being thrown off of that bunk bed by my stepbrother. And even that didn't make me throw up. I didn't have any pain that was comparable to this. It was so excruciating that I was just throwing up endlessly, and parts of my body felt so inflamed. It was by far the most excruciating thing I've ever experienced. And I'm in there waiting for 2 to 3 hours, and the only reason they speed up my entrance into the emergency room was because I told them that I had a history of SVT without telling them that I had cardiac ablation for that, which basically solves all your symptoms, that fixes it. I told them that I had that and that I had high blood pressure, which I was taking atenolol for that at the time. Feasibly, it was possible that I had high blood pressure if I was taking atenolol. The difference was I was taking it for palpitations and anxiety. And I said I was having heart problems at the time. And so that raises you on the list of concern when you're in an emergency room so they can get you in faster. And I lied like that under the advice of my father. He told me, tell them that you're having heart issues and they'll let you go in faster. And it actually worked. After 3 hours of waiting, eventually they did have me through. And I ended up getting in to the emergency room and they injected me with morphine and some NSAID called, I believe, Toradol. And they were like, yeah, it's a kidney stone after doing some testing. And I basically had to live with it until I got as soon of an appointment to the urologist as possible to actually go through with surgery. And the reason I couldn't have the surgery right away was because I had to not eat for at least 24 hours prior and make sure that any medication that I had been taking I was off of for a period of time. So I go through all of that and they put me through to do the surgery, which was very scary, to be quite honest with you, because at first the anesthetics and sedatives that they gave me weren't working and I was awake for longer than I was supposed to be, and then they finally worked and I woke up just in pain again, even though they probably gave me a lot of stuff for pain while I was in that state. I woke up in pain and confused. And that wasn't even the last surgery I had to have. Whereas with the first kidney stone, it was a one and done type thing. They blew it up, I was done. I actually had to go back for surgery again. And I had to have a follow-up appointment because this time the stent that they put in me was collapsible. It wasn't as easy to take out, where I had to go to the urologist and there was an entire cord that they ripped out of my junk. They told me to basically look away and that they were going to do it, and this woman grabbed a piece of the cord that was in my junk and physically ripped out an entire cord. It was like the longest thing I had ever seen. I had never seen something like that. It was insane. That was all the way in there was my first thought, and thankfully it didn't hurt a whole lot. I was expecting immense pain rivaling what I had experienced before. But they just pull this thing out and then all of a sudden it's out. And that was kind of weird. That was kind of uncomfortable. And then I was done. I had to take antibiotics for a little bit longer, but that was it. And the expectation was that I would continue drinking massive amounts of water all the time, which I already did prior to the first and second kidney stone. But they told me to drink even more. They told me to drink milk when I eat certain foods that are high in oxalates to kind of cancel out the oxalate formations for the oxalate stones. But the problem is, if I drink milk, I get heart palpitations, I start feeling like I'm gonna throw up, or I just generally start feeling sick. So the whole drinking milk thing is not gonna work for me. They told me I'm getting kidney stones because I don't drink enough milk, but I literally cannot drink milk without getting those symptoms. And so then one has to ask themselves, am I gonna get this for my whole life? Am I gonna get this forever? I don't know. I could have one right now. There could literally be one right now, and I might not even know. And I think about that sometimes. There was a funny moment with my urologist the second time that I had one, which I remember the least well, despite it being the most recent. I think because they gave me so many medications or something, or in general that whole period of time in my life is kind of a blur because I just spent most of it laying in bed all day. But he told me, and I won't forget this detail. He told me, "Oh, I'm not supposed to tell you this, but I became a urologist because I was getting kidney stones around your age. And what my doctor told me back in the day, and again, I'm not supposed to tell you this, but you're supposed to drink beer because it'll make you pee more." I was just thinking, like, why are you telling me this? I mean, maybe it was kind of a wink, wink, nudge, nudge type thing, but it was a very strange thing to just throw out there like that. It wasn't great. It wasn't very fun. I remember with that second kidney stone too, they told me, and again, I don't remember the details on this very well, like leading up to that second surgery, like, we gotta do this right now because that stent has gotta come out, and so we need to finish this. You had just missed your last like 3 appointments, and by that point I had already ran out of antibiotics. It's a miracle my dick didn't fall off. I had missed my last 3 appointments because my dad wouldn't drive me, his sleep was erratic, he generally like wasn't around in the capacity that he needed to be, and there were so many ex-convicts in the house at the time that I was terrified to be around. They were just really scary people doing drugs in the house all the time, like all these random homeless people making the house really messy. And so I didn't want to leave my room. I didn't even feel comfortable leaving my room to tell my dad, "Hey, I have an appointment I need to go to." And I was so depressed living in that place, feeling like I could never get out of there, that I just didn't a lot of the time leave the room to tell him important things. Even if I texted him, he would from the other room like moan in anger and pain that I even sent him a message. Like, he would hear the click and he would get so mad just if I wanted to tell him about an essential thing like that. And so I was just laying around thinking, like, you know, maybe my dick should fall off, maybe I should just fucking die. And so for a while there, I didn't even have antibiotics. And at that final stretch, my urologist gives me a call like, "I don't care what's going on, you need to get that thing out of you. We need to do the next part of the surgery," because the surgery was once again in 2 phases. And after that was done, a week goes by and I go to the urologist again, and that lady just rips it out of me right in front of me like that, and that long ass cord comes straight out of my body. And ostensibly the second kidney stone was gone, and hopefully that's the last I have to hear about that shit, but who knows? I've been having aches and pains. Maybe I have another one right now. But I can't know for sure because I don't have health insurance.